She laughed before she even stepped through the door. That soft, breathy kind of laugh she used to save for late-night conversations in bed when we still talked. Now it was for them. For everyone else. I watched her reflection in the mirror behind the bar, not realizing at first that I was staring. It was the fourth time I had checked my phone. No new notifications. Still 9:52 p.m. Still 0 missed messages. I had been standing in the same spot for 26 minutes. That's how long it took for her to forget I came with her. There was a jazz trio playing in the corner. They were good. Nobody listened. The room was too loud with performance. People trying to be heard, trying to be seen. And there was Dahlia, right in the center of it, dancing like the air belonged to her. Someone brushed past me and didn't say sorry. I murmured something that sounded like, "It's okay." But they were already gone. I watched her reach out and touch a man's elbow as she laughed again. Not inappropriately, just intimately, comfortably, like they shared something. A story I wasn't part of. A version of her I hadn't met yet. I wasn't angry. I was hollow, like I was made of glass, and everyone kept walking through me. There was no fight, no dramatic moment. I just stepped back, turned, and left. Nobody stopped me. Nobody even noticed. I walked out into the street where the music didn't follow, and the cold air reminded me I still had skin. By the time I reached the car, I had convinced myself she'd call, that she'd notice, that she'd look around and wonder where I was. Instead, 10 minutes later, my phone lit up. No missed call, just a message. Come. Lowercase. No punctuation. No explanation. Just that. I didn't answer it right away. I sat in the front seat of our car, her perfume still faint on the passenger side, like she'd left a shadow behind, and just stared at that word on the screen. Come. It didn't even have a capital letter. Like I was a dog being summoned, not a husband who vanished from a party she insisted I attend. I imagined her looking around the room, realizing I'd gone. I imagined her brushing her hair behind her ear, subtly scanning the faces, sipping her drink slower as the absence hit her. But another part of me, the quieter part one never let speak too loudly, whispered something darker. She knew I left. She just didn't care. She only texted when it would have looked bad for her if someone asked, "Hey, where's your husband?" That's what it felt like. That word, come, wasn't a request. It was damage control. I locked the screen and dropped the phone on the passenger seat, face down like it had insulted me. I told myself I wouldn't go back. I told myself this was a line. A small one, maybe, but a line. I deserved to be wanted, not noticed too late. But the longer I sat in the silence, the more I started arguing with myself. Maybe she was just busy. Maybe it's not that deep. Maybe I'm too sensitive. I should be proud of her. She's allowed to have friends. She's allowed to have a life outside me. She told me it was important. Maybe I embarrassed her by leaving. Maybe she's panicking now, looking for me, worried. What kind of husband just disappears? What if something happened? What if that one word, come, isn't cold, but desperate? I cracked. I always do. I picked up the phone, unlocked it, reread the text like it would change, and typed, "Where are you?" I watched the typing dots appear almost immediately. Then they vanished. Then silence. I was still staring at the screen when I heard a tap on the car window. I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was her. Still wearing that wine-colored dress. Still laughing. Still glowing. And holding someone else's jacket. She wasn't alone. And she didn't look surprised to see me. She didn't knock. She just opened the door and slid into the passenger seat like this was normal. Like I hadn't walked out of the party 30 minutes ago without a word. Like she wasn't standing in the cold with some stranger's jacket draped over her arm while I sat here unraveling. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. She smelled like spiced rum and citrus, cocktail perfume, I guess. The kind that doesn't come from home. Her cheeks were flushed, her hair slightly messier than it had been when we arrived. I watched her adjust her dress at the hem, tugging it back into place without even looking at me. "This yours?" she asked, holding up the jacket. I shook my head. "Nope." She stared at it, then muttered, "Oh," like it didn't matter either way. She tossed it into the back seat. No explanation. No apology. No, "Hey, why did you leave?" She just reached for the heater dial and cranked it up like she owned every inch of the silence between us. I waited. I needed her to say something. To ask. To care. But she just sat there warming her hands and scrolling through her phone like she was in an Uber. "Why did you text me?" I finally asked, and my voice sounded smaller than I meant it to. She didn't look up. "Because you left. You noticed? Of course I noticed, Ellis. There was no warmth in her tone. Just that clipped cadence she used when I asked too many questions. I nodded like I understood, but I didn't. I was just standing there, I said quietly. For almost half an hour. You didn't even glance at me. She shrugged. It was my night. Everyone was congratulating me. You knew what this was. I wanted to ask what exactly she thought it was. A performance? A job interview? A test to see how invisible I could become before she reacted? Instead, I said the dumbest thing imaginable. Whose jacket is that? She paused. Just for a second. Just enough. I don't know. Someone handed it to me when I went out to look for you. Another lie, maybe. Or maybe I've just forgotten how to believe her. The silence stretched again. The only sound was the low hum of the heater and the distant nightlife bleeding through the windshield. Let's just go home, she said flatly, buckling her seatbelt like we were done here. Like this moment was small. Like I hadn't spent the past hour trying to remember what it felt like to matter. I didn't drive. I sat there, hands on the wheel, and stared out into the night. She didn't speak again. She didn't ask if I was okay. And I couldn't stop staring at the jacket in the back seat. The one that didn't belong to me. I drove in silence. The kind that doesn't just fill the air, it presses against your ribs. Dahlia didn't speak. She didn't even look up from her phone. I watched the blue glow of the screen flicker against her face in my peripheral vision, and each flash felt like a spotlight on everything we no longer were. She was texting someone. I knew it. The soft little taps of her thumbs were too quick to be idle. Too purposeful. I wanted to ask who it was, but I already hated the version of myself who would ask that. I didn't want to be that husband, the one who sniffs around his own marriage for signs of decay. The pathetic, insecure one. The one who knows the answer before the question even leaves his mouth. When we got home, she walked in ahead of me and kicked off her heels by the door. Not tossed, not kicked, placed. Like she was settling back into something comfortable. Like nothing had happened. The moment her feet hit the hardwood floor, she let out a sigh of relief and disappeared into the bedroom. I followed slowly, but I didn't turn on any lights. I stood in the hallway, watching her silhouette as she peeled off her dress and reached for an oversized t-shirt. Not one of mine, one of hers. Plain, soft, forgettable. She didn't look at me. Not once. She slid under the covers like this was just another Friday night. And I stood there like a stranger in his own home, wondering how long it had been like this. How many nights she'd fallen asleep this easily, while I stayed up dissecting silences that she never noticed. I didn't crawl in beside her. I went to the kitchen. I made tea I didn't want. I sat in the dark and scrolled through photos of us on my phone like I was trying to convince myself we'd ever been in love. One picture stood out. A vacation shot from 3 years ago, her laughing on a balcony, hair in her face, holding a cup of hotel coffee. I remembered how she used to send me photos like that in the middle of the day. Now, I couldn't remember the last time she'd taken a picture with me in it. I opened our text thread. Aside from tonight's one-word command, her last message was from 5 days ago. Buy oat milk. That was it. I stared at it for a long time, letting it echo inside me, and then I did something I wasn't proud of. I picked up her phone. It was charging on the nightstand. I told myself I wasn't going to look. I just wanted to check the time. I needed an excuse. Any excuse. But the screen lit up without a passcode. She'd left it unlocked, and I saw a name I didn't recognize. Milo. 3 new messages. All unread. I didn't open them. I didn't have to. The preview was enough. You looked amazing tonight. Did he buy the jacket story? Tell me when he's asleep. My hands went cold. My ears rang. And from the bedroom, I could hear her breathing, slow, steady, peaceful. Like she was safe. Like she was loved. Like she was still mine. I stood in the doorway for what felt like an hour, holding her phone like it was made of glass and venom. My thumb hovered above the screen, shaking. I didn't scroll. I didn't open the thread. I didn't need to. The damage had already been done, and somehow, without knowing all the details, I still knew everything. I returned her phone to the charger, carefully, like I was laying a snake back in its nest. Then I tiptoed backward, retracing my steps in reverse, as if walking the same path could undo the last 10 minutes. I moved like someone trying not to wake a sleeping beast, but it wasn't fear that guided me. It was grief. The kind of grief you don't get to cry about, because no one's dead, and yet something's already gone. I brushed my teeth without turning the light on. I didn't want to see myself. I didn't want to see the face of a man who always knew but never did anything. The kind of man who kept setting the table even when his dinner companion had stopped showing up. By the time I slipped under the covers beside her, she shifted slightly, just enough to acknowledge me, but not enough to face me. I stayed completely still, not out of peace, but strategy. I wanted her to think I'd gone to bed like normal. I wanted her to believe I hadn't seen anything. And I wanted to know, would she text him again? The room was dark except for the soft glow of her phone, screen turned slightly away from me. I opened my eyes just enough to catch it lighting up. She didn't move. Not at first. But then slowly, like she'd done it before, she slid one hand under the covers, found the phone by feel, and turned away from me just slightly more. The light dimmed as she opened the thread. I didn't breathe. No tapping. No typing. Just a stillness I could feel radiating off her. Nervous, deliberate, quiet. Then, finally, a whisper of movement. She typed something. I couldn't see it, but I could hear the pause. The uncertainty. Then she deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. 3 full minutes passed. Then the screen dimmed, and she put the phone back. I don't know if she sent anything. I don't know if she chickened out. I don't even know what outcome I was hoping for. All I knew was that she hadn't moved closer to me, and that told me everything. But still, I laid there in the dark beside her, pretending to sleep first. Because that's what cowards do. She woke before me. Or at least she pretended to. I could tell by the way she moved. Too careful, too rehearsed, like someone trying to mimic normal. She slipped out of bed silently, her footsteps light against the floorboards, and padded into the bathroom without a word. I kept my eyes closed, listening. The door clicked shut, and I heard the water run. Not the shower, just the sink. I opened my eyes then. My head was filled with fog and static. My body felt heavy, not from lack of sleep, but from the weight of pretending I hadn't seen what I saw. Her messages, the jacket, the way she didn't care I'd left the party. It all layered on me like wet cement. She emerged a few minutes later already dressed, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. She avoided eye contact, went to the kitchen, and started making coffee, like it was a Tuesday. Like nothing had shifted in the world overnight. But I felt the fracture in the air between us, deep and growing. It was no longer a crack. It was a canyon. I walked in and sat down at the table without a word. She handed me a mug and kissed me on the cheek. It was mechanical, dry, a reflex, like flipping a switch. "Did you sleep okay?" she asked, her voice light, forced. I nodded. Lied. Yeah. She sipped her coffee like she was tasting it for the first time. "You seemed quiet last night." "You didn't seem to notice," I said before I could stop myself. Her smile froze mid-sip. She set the mug down slowly and looked at me, finally. "Is this going to be a thing now?" I blinked. "A thing? You acting like I did something wrong. I invited you. I tried to include you. You disappeared. That's not on me." The words didn't match the crime, and she knew it. But she said them anyway, like reading off a script she'd rehearsed just in case I ever grew a spine. "I left because I felt like a stranger in the room," I said carefully. "No one talked to me, including you." She shrugged. "It was my promotion. I had people to talk to." "I'm not people," I asked, and my voice cracked at the edge. She stared at me then, really stared, like she was trying to decide whether I was worth the emotional effort. That stare hurt more than any answer she could have given. "You're overthinking everything again," she said finally, gathering her phone and keys. Like always. Before I could reply, her phone buzzed on the counter. She didn't flinch. I glanced at it, just long enough to see the name. Milo. Again. She turned the screen face down, slowly, deliberately. Then she walked toward the door. "I have a meeting. Don't wait up." I sat there staring at my untouched coffee, and I knew, really knew, that something had crossed a line we couldn't walk back from. And yet I still whispered after she left, "I'll see you tonight." Because some part of me, no matter how small, still wanted to believe she'd come back for the version of us that no longer existed. That day dragged like wet cloth. I didn't go to work. I didn't even tell them I wasn't coming in. I just sat in the living room, the curtains drawn halfway like I couldn't decide if I wanted to see the world or hide from it. Every little sound in the apartment felt like her ghost. Her chair shifting, her footsteps, her laugh echoing faintly from memory, rewinding and looping like a tape I didn't know how to stop. I opened our wedding album. I know, pathetic, but it was there, wedged behind a stack of unread mail, and I needed to hold something that made sense. She looked happy in those photos. Or maybe I only saw what I wanted. There was one picture, She was mid-laugh, head tilted back, holding my hand like she meant it. I stared at that picture so long I forgot to blink. Around 4 p.m., I got the stupidest idea I've ever had. I wanted to talk to her. Not fight. Not accuse. Just talk. I wanted to ask if she still loved me, and I wanted to believe her if she said yes. So I drove to her office. I didn't even know if she'd be there. I'd never visited before. I only knew the address from the company mailer stuck to our fridge. It was a modern building, glass, silver, generic smiles in the lobby posters. I sat in the car across the street for 20 minutes, debating if I'd lost my mind. Then I saw her, walking out. Not alone. Milo. I didn't need a name tag. I didn't need confirmation. I recognized his face from the party. That tailored navy suit, the easy grin, the way his eyes crinkled when he leaned toward her like they shared some secret the rest of us weren't allowed to hear. She touched his arm. Again, just like at the party. Like it meant nothing. Like it meant everything. They walked to the parking garage beneath the building. I should have left right then. Driven away, cut the cord clean, spared myself the final nail. But I didn't. I parked. I followed. I took the stairs 2 at a time, staying just far enough behind to hear their footsteps, but not close enough to be seen. My heart pounded so hard I could barely hear anything else. But then, near the 3rd level down, I heard her voice. And I stopped breathing. "He's suspicious," she said. Milo laughed quietly. "That was always the risk." "He saw the jacket," she added. I lied. I said someone handed it to me. A long pause. Then Milo said, "You're not going to back out now, are you?" "No," she whispered. "I just need to do it carefully." Another pause. Then, clearer this time. "Too clear," he said. "Make sure he doesn't see it coming. If he thinks you're still trying, he'll stay soft." She didn't answer, and I didn't move. I stood there, frozen behind a concrete pillar, hearing my marriage end in real time. Not with screaming or betrayal or cheating in the way people expect, but with the soft precision of a planned exit. A manipulation. A script. I waited until they drove off together. I didn't try to follow. I just sat down on the dirty stairwell, put my head in my hands, and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because for the first time, I saw myself the way she probably saw me. Predictable, forgiving, and completely blind. That night, I didn't wait up. I didn't pace the floor like some wounded husband desperate for answers that would never come. I didn't sit with the lights off, waiting to confront her like I used to imagine in every fantasy where I finally caught her. No, that version of me, the quiet, overthinking shadow of a man, he didn't live here anymore. Instead, I packed. Not in rage. Not in haste. I moved slowly, deliberately, folding my clothes the way my mother taught me. I took only what was mine. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't touch her side of the closet. I even watered the plant on the windowsill before I left. It was dying anyway, but I figured I owed it that much. We'd both been living in the same silence. I left the house key in the bowl by the door. And a note. Nothing dramatic. Just a sentence. I heard everything. Don't look for me. I turned my phone off after that. She came home sometime after midnight. I don't know what she expected. Maybe a fight. Maybe a confrontation she could twist in her favor. But what she found was a space just slightly emptier than before. A drawer half open and hollow. A room that no longer hummed with my quiet presence. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to scream. I needed peace. And I found it, not in some grand act, but in the simplest of truths. I deserved better than someone who rehearsed their betrayal like a presentation. I deserved someone who noticed when I left the room. It's been 6 months now. I moved into a quiet apartment on the edge of town. It's small, peaceful, the kind of place where the kettle whistles too loudly and the walls creak when it rains. I like it. I joined a local book club. I started cooking again. Nothing fancy, just recipes I'd forgotten I loved. I even got a dog. Named him Murphy. He doesn't lie to me. He just wants walks and peanut butter. Sometimes, in the early mornings, when the sun cuts across the floor just right and Murphy is curled up by the window, I realize something. She thought I was soft. She thought I'd never leave. She thought I'd wait until she was ready to replace me. But I left first, and I never looked back.